and welcome to the Bolshevik News. Guys, we're going to be stepping up our game. It's been 2 years since we've taken the initiative to build our first tri-mag equipment which tracked the magnetic North Pole, or at least the intensity region in between the two poles at the present time over Canada and Siberia. We're going to go a little bit further, but before we get into that, I want to thank those 47 patrons and those people that have donated on PayPal over the last couple of weeks. You know, we have had explosion of subscribers since Christmas. We've had an extra 3,000 people join our channel and support. Some of these people have, took the initiative to support the channel. We've got £152 to invest in equipment at the end of the month. I think on the 1st of January we get paid from Patreon. And as you can see, we've got 47 people supporting us. Guys, you can support us for as little as $1. As little as $1. $1 doesn't buy a lot these days. But when, a lot of people put $1, it mounts up. And what that means for us is that we can buy magnetometers, breakout boards, sensors and other equipment, and we can ship that out to people all over this world, and we can get a better resolution on what it is we're trying to examine, and that is the magnetic North Pole splitting into two, and we can track those individual poles over the northern hemisphere, and we're going to start tracking, guys, believe it or not, the southern hemisphere as well. We're going to put two magnetometers on the west and east of mid-Australia as well, so that we can track that. But like I said, a little bit later on I'll explain what we're going to do and why we're going to do that. So, I just want to say a great big thanks to the support that we've got. I also want to mention Diamond at the Open Hammer Ranch project. He's been giving me a lot of advice. It was solely down to him that he said to me, Gene, it's time to, take the next step and get yourself a Patreon account. And, I did it. And, I'm surprised. We've got 47 people, supporting the channel. Per month, as you can see, we've raised, to this point, £152. And, we're also getting, some funding from PayPal still as well. It's not nowhere near the amount of subscribers that we've got that are supporting the channel. If it was, I'd be a millionaire. I'd be employing people now to do these things for me. But, it's still a very small operation that we've got. But nevertheless, I am, 47 patrons. I'm delighted. I couldn't wish for any more bigger support than that we've got from the patrons and the PayPal. So, fantastic. Let's get into what then we're going to be doing over the next few months. So guys, as I said at the beginning of this video, I want to step up the game a little bit. And what I mean by that is I hope you can see this cursor because it goes really small when I put it over this image for some reason. I want to put magnetometers over the Siberian pole and over the Canadian pole. And, when I looked at the ideal places to place these, one of them, when I zoomed in on Google Earth, was North Korea. We're not going to get a magnetometer in North Korea. And we're only going to get magnetometers in China if, we expand our reaches out. And that is exactly what we've done over recent weeks. We're working with Diamond over the Open Hammer Ranch, and he's told me that, there won't be a problem with his help getting people in China to support us with putting some magnetometers in their homes and then sending the data back to us. Over in Canada, what we want to do is we want to track the intensity around somewhere between Los Angeles and Virginia. I've got a good idea. I've already got Virginia covered. Someone that has been desperately willing to help us for a long time has already said, he will definitely put one of these magnetometers in Virginia for us. So, I haven't asked him yet this time round. I know he was happy to put one of the TriMag systems in his property for us and track that, because one of my ideas was we wanted to triangulate it so we could get, a over the horizon image of what when the North Pole went north or south, we would have that data if we had another 2 people with Trimag systems in there. At the moment, we're only able, with our Trimag here in the UK, to detect whether it moves easterly or westerly, which has been good up until now, because the pole has only been migrating, or the highest intensity region in between these 2 magnetic poles has been migrating easterly. So it's been great up until this point, tracking that. By doing things a little bit different now, what we want to do is put it in the path of the track in which the intensity of Canada and Siberia is moving. So what we want to do is try and track these regions around here. So by putting one in Virginia, one in Los Angeles, one in East and West China, and then we're also, like I said, we're going to track the southern pole that is migrating over Australia right now. So if we can get one just above mid-Australia, east and west, then we'll be covering the major activity with regards to these 4 magnetic poles, although we'll only be observing 3 of them at the moment. The reason why we're not going to be able to do much with the one over the lower left part of this swarm chart is because there's just no continents there. We could probably try and get one in this region here and just see whether things do progress, but as you can see, it is moving nowhere near that continent. So that's the plans, guys. I've already taken the initiative to order the equipment for the 6 magnetometers that we're going to place. Like I said, one in Los Angeles or around about that region. We are going to be, over the next month or so, looking closely at the best regions for these magnetometers to go. So just off the top of my head now, one in Los Angeles, one in Virginia, and then over around China, one in west of China, one in east of China, and then one in mid-Australia, west and east again. And what we're going to do is we will expect, as these magnetic regions move further south, we will see on our magnetometers an increase in nanoteslas. And we'll also be tracking still this region in between the 2 poles over the northern hemisphere. So that's what your money is going to be spent on over the next couple of months. I'm going to do the videos also, guys, so that you can see me actually building these devices. Now, it's not going to be a very easy case as when we do get to deliver these to these 6 people that we're going to select. It's not going to be a simple case as you pull it out the box, you plug it in and switch it on and it does its job. It's not going to be, there's going to be a little bit of work in there, but I don't want to put people off, because we're going to link up on Skype and I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do step by step to calibrate it, where to put it, and then from there all you've got to do is once a month whip out these SD cards from the device, put them into your computer, get the file up on your screen and send that to me by email, and then I'll do all the processing of the data. And we're going to have a new page on the website which is going to select the data, and we're going to try and build up some imagery as what's going on with these 2 regions of high intensity over the North Pole and also over the South Pole, albeit that pole which is lurching up over Australia, because when you look at this map that we're looking at, you can see it is out of proportion. For some reason the South Pole is expanding more than the other poles that we can see on the planet right now. And at the end of the day, we'll compile the data, we'll see how fast things are moving, and like I say, there is that all important still 40 degrees that we've talked about for a long time, which is about 300 miles off at the moment. And with regards to what we saw over the last 4 months, that little uptick where we're seeing a lot more higher readings than normal for the first time in 18 months, I do believe we're seeing early signs of the magnetic pole increasing speed and therefore covering more distance over short of periods of time. If that is the case, we're going to reach that 40 degree mark, and things are going to start happening from there on. and what I anticipate is we're going to get this reversal happen a lot quicker. And I think I keep referring to this image that we saw, and I know a lot of you are understanding in the fact that this is a 2014 image that we're looking at. But the reason why I keep referring to this is because this was one of the first images that Swarm released. Now, you've got to imagine when Swarm started to compile the data and build this image out of the data, they was very excited and wanted to show, the world what they achieved. But have you noticed, since then, we've only been allowed less than level 2 data on the Swarm mission. And a lot of that is because it has been militarized. It was their general prime contractor was military, I believe Airbus, and the defence, which I would assume it was a joint venture in Europe, means the ESA is majorly in control of this. So that's probably why we've not been able to see level 2 and more clearance with regards to the data, but it doesn't make no difference. We've got this data and there's no reason to discard it. We can see where the major magnetic regions are over the northern hemisphere and over the southern hemisphere, and from there we can place our magnetometers according to what we see, and we will see an increase in nanoteslers as these regions continue in their progression towards the equator. Now guys, thanks to Swarm and the mission and the data that we've got, based on 2014, we know where to put our magnetometers. Not only that, we've been tracking the magnetic North Pole. We know it's moving towards Siberia. In any case, we've been tracking that with the TriMag for 18 months. So, having added the Swarm data, we will know exactly where to put our magnetars, and we want to put them in the 50 to 55,000 nanotesla range, and that's going to put us in somewhere in Los Angeles, Virginia, and China. We just look. We can see this yellow line that you can see. It starts off red and then goes yellow. We can see that that's the path in the direction the Siberian pole is moving. And if we go north, back over the Arctic Circle, over into Canada and America, we can see that the 55,000 nanotesla range is going to put us somewhere in this region here, which is going to be Virginia and Los Angeles and those areas thereabouts. Now guys, we're looking at North Skull's temperature a few days ago of the northern and southern hemisphere. Well, we're looking at the global picture of temperature really, but it shouldn't come as a surprise to you that we are looking at something very similar on the two when we compare this with Swarm's missions imagery of the data that they've compiled. You can see the two major regions over the northern hemisphere, one over Canada, one over Siberia, the most coldest regions over the northern hemisphere. We can also say that over the southern hemisphere, at least to the right side of this map, that the biggest plume which is lurching over Australia, you can see on the Antarctic continent is the region which is the coldest. We're looking at these purple bits which put the temperature in around about 40 minus degrees. So they're very cold temperatures. And if we just take into consideration this region here, in comparison with what we've been hearing on the ground with farmers in these southern islands of China experiencing cold temperatures for the first time, in which they have lost thousands of heads of cattle, and the cattle that remain alive, you wouldn't believe it guys, they are actually, and I've seen photos of this, lighting fires underneath the cows to keep them warm. This is something that they used to do in the UK in the 80s in the winters to keep the diesel from freezing in the tanks before they added additives to the diesel to stop it freezing. It's unbelievable that the people are going to these lengths in order to keep the cattle alive. But it's not just cattle that we've lost. If you follow channels like the Open Nano Ranch, you're going to find that they cover it very well. The regions of this planet which are going offline as a result of the changing climate. So it probably be worth you guys at some point, if you are, concertedly interested in this, following these channels, to get a heads up of what's going on with, areas of our Earth which is going offline with regards to agriculture. Another good one is Adapt 2030. He does a fantastic job of covering, this new solar minimum that we're in, as is described, the grand solar minimum, as a result of the last 3 consecutive solar cycles dwindling out to next to nothing. Guys, our planet's changing, and we take it for granted sometimes, because of the inertia in which it actually changes is very slow. But if you compare, in the UK 20 years ago and 25 and 30 years ago, what the climate was like and the seasons was like, then you wouldn't be able to compare them what they are today. We seem to have turned the seasons back anti-clockwise just a little bit, and we're getting the major winter after the December period, whereas before we used to get it well before the December period. Another thing we don't widely accept is the changes that we don't necessarily notice. One of these, as I've mentioned many times before, I've showed you the videos of them before, guys, are sundogs. These anomalies are closely related to Arctic regions, not regions at 52 degrees where we are in the UK. So, people go about their daily lives, the changes happen slowly, and, before it's realised, there's a major problem that they're facing. And, it can touch us all at any given time. We are probably on the knife edge at the moment with regards to, how things can change tomorrow, which will rapidly affect our individual lives today. Just for instance, look at the jet streams. Look at how much cosmic radiation is inbound on our planet right now. And that's largely as a result of a shrinking heliosphere due to the low sunspot activity over the last 3 consecutive solar cycles of 33 years or thereabouts. And, a weakened magnetosphere admitted already at 20%, but I believe it's more along the lines of 25%, maybe a little bit more. This just means a compounded influence with regards to the amount of cosmic rays that are inbound on our planet right now. What this does is sets up a perfect platform for more water vapour in our atmosphere. One of the things that is never talked about on mainstream TV, news outputs, or with even the mainstream scientific organisations, is one of the things about water vapour in the atmosphere is one of the largest contributors to the greenhouse effect, which means it's a tri-molecule. H2O, right, means it's a tri-molecule, and therefore interacts with inbound radiation in our atmosphere. As a result, it reflects a lot of the solar radiation, which is what we don't need in a grand solar minimum. It also means that, it traps some of that radiation that is able to get through. But if we've got more cosmic radiation inbound, building up more water vapour in our atmosphere, we are blocking out solar radiation, which is going to eventually cool the planet. And this is what we're witnessing right now, guys. We are witnessing the starts of a massive inertia of something that has gradually been moving forward in this, negative cycle in a manner to cool the atmosphere and in turn cool the planet. And this is how I believe glacial periods come about. Now, you've seen the sunspot activity over the last 11,000 years just on the back of the last glacial period that we had. You know what? Since that time, 11,000 years, there has been a continuous depletion in sunspot activity over that period of time. Which means, guys, we are heading back into a glacial period. If that is the case, we're going to face a lot of problems. And in turn, on top of this, we've got the Earth going through a magnetic reversal. This has to be one of the most important scientific anomalies that is taking place today in our lives, that is largely going unheard of, even though, we have had a recent uptick in the media covering the magnetic pole migration, and we have NOAA claiming that they're going to be coming out at the end of this month, if they are back at work, because the American government is shut down at the moment, but if they are back at work, they're going to be making some announcements. And as you guys know, I've already predicted where I believe they're going to put the magnetic North Pole at the moment. But that, I just hope they're brave enough to come out and tell you guys, and just reinforce what I've already told you, that there is 2 magnetic poles over the northern hemisphere and 2 over the southern hemisphere. And what our compasses are pointing to directly at this moment is neither of those poles. It is just the intensity in between the 2 poles that our compasses and our sensors here at the Maverickstar Observatory point to. And that is because we're not close enough to either the Siberian pole or the Canadian pole for it to mainly point towards those. As you can see on this map, we're in England, and you can see that in between the 2 dense regions of cold polarity over the northern hemisphere, there is this warm area in between the 2, which lurches up a little bit towards the Antarctic region, and that's where our observatory is, and that's what we're seeing right now. It is convenient for us that we are in this position, because otherwise, it would be a different story that we would be telling. So, there's a lot of work to go on, guys. I don't want to keep on about this. I know that you've got a life as well. I am very grateful for the people that are supporting us on Patreon and on PayPal, and we're going to be doing a little bit more work with regards to tracking the migration and the intensity regions that we've pointed out earlier in this video. The thing is, it isn't going to be as hard as when we first started out, because I've already got an amount of knowledge in programming. So most of the programs that we're going to use for these new data collectors, these new magnetometers that we're going to put over over America, and over in China, and over in Australia, the groundwork's already been done by me. It's just a matter of making some adjustments to it, getting the program written for the equipment, and getting it distributed. I'm hoping to do that at the end of February, be in a position to distribute these to these people. So by that time, we'll have ordered the parts, assembled them, and distributed them, and then hopefully at the end of February we can switch it all on and start recording some data. So guys, this is the fastest route in which we could have got these ground-based observatories done. It would have been nice. And if you guys was following me years and years ago, you knew, as a bit of a hobby, I was building liquid rocket motors. Guys, I would love to send a rocket out into space, into low orbit, around 400 kilometers above the Earth's surface, and even 500 kilometers where Swarm have their mission right now. It's not that, it's beyond my capabilities, because if you saw those videos, you would have saw we nearly blew up my brother's workshop, running one of these liquid rocket motors. But if I was going to go down that route anyhow, it would be a solid fuel motor. And again, it's not that I haven't got the capability to build the solid fuel motors. We have got that ability to do, but it's just the development of the satellites, the solar powers that's going to run the satellites, and this, that, and the other, and then getting over civil aviation. There was, it's just, we just wouldn't be in a position to get these things to a point where we could look at the data quick. It would probably be about 2 years away, and we'd probably be talking £10,000-20,000 to build. And I know you're thinking right now, guys, well, how does it cost billions of pounds to build millions of pounds to build these satellites that these guys put up, in NASA and places like that? It's simply because, we've got the benefit of having a lot of skills That's as simple as it is, guys. I went out myself and I taught myself programming. Well, NASA wouldn't have to do this. They'd just give it the programmer. They'd give it the designer. One person would be a programmer, then there'd be a mission manager, and you can imagine all this, and then where it's going to be built, who's going to build it. Components aren't all going to be built in one house, whereas if I was building it, it would be in my workshop, my lathe, my machining I'd be doing myself, my programmer would be doing myself, so I can cut the costs dramatically. But for speed, guys, and getting data right now as fast as we can, the only way to do it is by building these devices, sending them out to people that we can rely on, that are going to record the data for us and send it us back, and I can process it, and that's the quickest way we can get it. I don't want to wait 2 years before we start getting data that we can use and see what's happening with regards to this anomaly that's taking place. Guys, I have talked probably longer than what I should do, and I'm hoping that you're going to join me for the videos where I'm going to show me building these devices in the coming weeks and months. And I just want to say once again, thanks to Diamond over at Open Hammer Ranch, and thanks to you guys that have been supporting us financially on Patreon. Guys, if you want to support it, just a dollar. I don't know what more you can get out of a dollar than what we're offering here. It's a massive effort, and a dollar is not hardly anything. $2 isn't anything. You can't buy a lot with $2 these days. If you want to support us, Patreon's the way forward, and PayPal as usual, guys. And let's just give you, for instance, what we're buying for these 6 magnetometers. We're buying power packs, SD cards, data recorders, breakout boards. There's a lot of work that I've got to put into it, building them all up, soldering the wires onto the magnetometer chips and getting them up and running, testing them, sending them out, and then calibrating them, getting them running there, and then just getting the people familiar with what's got to be done. There's going to be a lot of work involved, and there's going to be some cost involved as well. So if people can help the observatory out in that way, then it isn't going to be 2 months before, what, guys, we have an international observatory. And we really will, because these magnetometers will be in America, China, Australia. There's no more international than that, is there? And we're going to give them a good run for the money, these mainstream organisations, even though our budget is a fraction of what theirs is. It's just that we've got the knowledge, the know-how, and the determination to do it. And you know what, guys, you, the general public, are going to benefit from a small observatory which is working for yourselves and not for the benefits of these 1% rich elitists. That's it in a nutshell. So, the links are down there, guys, Patreon and the PayPal. And I'll say what I usually do. Bye for now.